This morning's reading was written by Starr Austin, but Starr is sick and unable to read it, so I'm filling in for her. I love Marvel movies. DC too. There is something about superheroes. The capes, the masks, the superpowers. I love it all. What I love the most is they help people. Sometimes they help people even when they aren't wearing a cape. One of our superheroes, Batman, well, Ben Affleck anyway, was recently on a famous talk show when the host said some unkind things about Muslims. Ben Affleck spoke up and told him that wasn't okay. So even when you don't have a cape on, you can be a hero and a helper. Do you know any helpers who don't wear capes? Sure. Police, firemen, ministers, parents, social workers, teachers. There are lots of helpers in the world. People who go into the helping professions have a great purpose in our society. When there is chaos and crisis, our helpers keep us calm and guide us to safety. Does anyone remember the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Mr. Rogers was a gentleman who had a children's television show on the public broadcasting station for over 30 years. He was a man who knew his purpose. He spent a lifetime speaking up for children, for their safety, education, and the right to a full and creative childhood. Mr. Rogers once said that as a boy, he saw something scary on the news. He was frightened, but his mother told him to look for the helpers. She pointed out the paramedics, police, and firemen who were helping the situation. And he realized that no matter how scary things get, there are always helpers among us. Not everyone who helps wears a cape or a uniform. In our own way, every one of us is a helper. Finding our purpose guides us to figure out what kind of helper we will be. Some of us help the environment. Others help with access to affordable housing. Some help people understand their finances or navigate tricky court situations. The helpers are all around us. When we don't look for helpers, we can feel overwhelmed. When I was growing up, Mr. Rogers was my helper. On his show, he would enter his house and change his sport coat into a comfy cardigan and his dress shoes to sneakers, and sit on the couch and talk to me as though I were right there with him. It felt like he was making time for me, even though he was coming through the television set. He was a stable presence in my life. I think he provided more help for kids than he ever knew. Mr. Rogers talked about bullying long before it was an unfortunate familiar phrase in our homes. He used make-believe to demonstrate the kinds of meanness that can occur between people when they are afraid or they themselves are feeling bad about who they are. Mr. Rogers also taught our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of each person. He showed us that every person was important, even people who were sometimes mean. Mr. Rogers never wore a cape. He was just a man following his purpose, making television programs for kids that taught his values. In simply pursuing what he loved, he taught millions of us that we are special simply by being who we are in the world. He taught us, no matter how scary things it might be, there are always helpers, so look for the helpers. I wonder if we lived purposefully, how many people we would help.